Hello, how you all doing? Sorry for the lateness. Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. Let me just have a little gulp of water. That's it, just right. Hello, how are you? Hello, welcome. Thank you all for joining me. Hello, hi. Welcome to the Therapy Hour. Every Saturday, join us as we explore everything therapeutic. So for today, just welcoming you guys for joining me. Today, this session is all yours. Today, once in a while, I like to do what I call the Q&A, the questions and answers. For today, it is your session. It is your time for us to explore everything that you guys have. So my agenda today is your agenda. So whatever you guys want to bring in for today, I've had some questions already sent to my DM. This is an opportunity for you also to be sending some questions through. So if you have any questions, any topic, any queries you may be having, send it through in the messages right now, in the comments. And then what I'll do is I'll go through each and every one of them. I've got a few already lined up, but I'm going to go through some of yours as well between now and the end of the show. All right. So thank you all for joining the Therapy Hour for our 12th session, I believe. Wow, the questions flown in already. There we go. Imposter syndrome. All right, I like that. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you for coming here. Thank you for joining me. So I can't do this without you guys being present, without you guys supporting, without you guys showing interest and throwing in your questions and your comments and also some of your experiences that you've been sharing with everyone here. We truly appreciate it. All right. So for today's session, it's going to be about you. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a little bit of intro on when we started, how long it's been, the aim and the goal of starting the Therapy Hour. Now, the Therapy Hour, the first Therapy Hour started on the 4th of April. And the 4th of April was the very first Therapy Hour. And that session was born out of my thoughts and my deliberation on how can I support, how can I offer some sort of comfort, how can I offer some sort of guidance, how can I offer just my experience in this period where everybody's locked in, sometimes with people they don't really want to be with, sometimes not doing the things that they would love to do, sometimes not having the opportunity for them to be able to explore their mental health. You will find out a lot about yourself when the distractions are not there. And what I mean by the distractions, some people have distractions with work, some people have distractions with socializing, some people have distractions with anything. So when that is not there, you truly find out more about yourself. So send in the questions, send in your topics, and I'll be able to explore them right now. So far I've had a few in there. Let's see. How do you go about reconciling your not so perfect self and the person you want to be? Okay. Wow. The Tuesday child. That's a brilliant question. So I'm just going to be making a note of all those questions that fly about. Imposter syndrome to start us off. And aligning the person you want to be and that perfect self. Okay. So going back to what we were talking about earlier, about what started this. So what I thought is, let me start an hour every Saturday. Saturday seemed like a logical time for me. I don't know why, considering every day feels like a Saturday or a Monday or a Tuesday, depending on what mood you're in, to start it off and basically just devote an hour in the week to trying to maybe explore certain topics, to try and help where I can. And now we've reached 12 weeks later. And my own internal aim was to be like, you know what, if I can affect one person, if I could make a difference to one person's life experience, the way they're feeling or the way they may feel in the future, or even understanding how the past is currently just being present, then I will have done what I aim to do. So that's my definition of success. My definition of success is when the reality meets what the goal is. And my goal was that, and I've had a lot of messages that suggest that maybe we're on a successful path. And for that, I am grateful for everyone that's allow themselves to be free enough to be challenged, allow themselves to be free enough to explore the darkest recesses of our minds, our souls, our spirit. So it's a collaborative effort. No therapeutic experience is successful without the client and the therapist aligning. So we all take as much credit as there is to take. All right. So now we've reached the 12th session, and I've been thinking for a while, when would it be a good time for me to pause the therapy hour? And I'm thinking, 12 sounds like a beautiful number. 12 is a very special number to me for my own personal reason. But also 12 weeks seems like a stint, right? 12 weeks is a quarter, right? So that's 3 months. So I'm like, you know what? That seems like a good figure. So maybe I may be pausing it after today's session. But let's get into the topics that people have raised in there. And any questions you have, like I said, fire it through. And I'll be able to, hopefully, be able to explore every single one of them. Last week, I was interested in where everybody else was coming from. Everybody else is watching this. Where are you all sitting right now? Where in the world are you all right now? Or maybe where in the UK are you all right now? Who knows? So feel free to let me know where you are watching this from, so I can just connect the spirit to that part of the world, and so we can all connect, right? So feel free. I'm watching. Let me just make a note of it. Hello. Let me see. Where you from? We've got Mom Nakom. I'm interested to that. What that means. So someone explain to me. Hello, everyone joining in right now. Leeds. I've never been to Leeds. Thank you, Lucy. Is Leeds beautiful this time of the year or any time of the year? I always imagine Leeds to be full of like different architecture, a little grey. London, welcome. I'm somewhere in between the UK somewhere. I'm floating around the ether. So we've got Leeds in the house, we've got London. Now, let's see, Blue Eye Sky. Wow, beautiful. I'm loving the handles. We've got the Tuesday Child, Blue Eye Sky. Where else have we got? Whereabouts are you all from? Let's connect to it. South. We don't call it South, we call it South. Minnesota, Blue Eye Sky. Minnesota, is the sky blue right there at this time? Or what time is it? It's probably around 9 o'clock. Is it 9 a.m.? Charlotte from Syracuse, upstate New York. Hello, Charlotte. Wow, so it's probably around 9 o'clock there right now. So you guys are just wiping away the cobwebs, right? Well, welcome. Thank you for joining me. 8 to 8. So it's a 6-hour differential. Okay. Wow, thank you. I'm even more honored that 8 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, I'm up around that time, but I don't expect the rest of the world to be. So thank you for joining me. So send in your questions, whatever queries you may be having about therapy. So, all right. So it's 9 a.m. on one side and 8 a.m. Okay, I guess the East. And, I'm learning more and more as we go along. Yes. So any questions you have, any topics you've ever wanted to ask a therapist, this is your opportunity. This is a perfect time for us to be able to go through therapy together. All right. So it's about bonding. It's about connecting each and every one of us. My knowledge, my experience means absolutely nothing without a connection with a client, without a connection with anyone sitting in front of me. It means absolutely nothing. I'll just be talking to myself, talking into the wind. So your input and your presence is as important as a therapist. So if any of you are looking for a therapist or you're seeking a therapist, we call it the working alliance. And the working alliance is a way to define the relationship between the therapist and the client. Not effective by themselves. So you need to find someone you feel comfortable with, someone you can connect with, someone you feel, we've all got that gut feeling, right? And sometimes we dismiss it because it's easier for us to dismiss it. But try and connect to that inner gut, that inner spirit, and you'll be able to connect with say, this person is the right person for me. So for all you guys that have come back week after week, it means that the working alliance is working here. It means there's a connection here. All right. So if you're seeking a therapist, look out for someone you feel comfortable exploring and going on that one of the most important journeys of your life with, the journey of exploration of self. Okay? So send in your questions now and I'll be exploring it as we go along. So let me just get started then. Anybody else from any different parts of the world that may be of, I love finding out about different areas of the world. So I've got Leeds in the house, we've got London in the house, we've got South London in the house. It's a different part of London. It's not even London. It's its own city, it's its own town, South London. So wow, Ash is ready today. So we'll be able to explore that. So the next question for you will be, appropriate for a therapist to cry when you're sharing trauma? 3 times with 3 therapists. That seems like an interesting one. A part of me, the therapist in me, wants to delve even a little bit deeper and explore what was going on in those sessions. But I'll hold back a little bit. If you want to share a little bit more about that, Aish, let me know. Come through and we may be able to go through it right now and see how many of us get connected to what you have experienced. How many of us can give you that universal, the village therapy for you right now. So it seems that there's a lot going on there. Let me just note that down so I do not forget it, because a lot goes on. If you haven't joined us before, a lot goes on. By the time I finish, I'm like, hold on, let me try and rush this through. So today I'm going to take the time with each and every question to explore it with you. Okay? So reconciling, perfect self. Just give me a second. All right, let's go. Hello. Oh, that's a good question. A good fit of a therapist. I'm just touching on that. I'm going to expand on that. All right, Rick. All right. Okay. Let's see. All right. Any more questions? Fire it through. Okay. Questions to ask. There we go. Alwyn, welcome. I see you. Now, Alwyn is the PhD in the house, doctor in the house. I'm not going to out you as much. Got another PhD student in the house. Look at her right there. Brilliant question. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to touch on every question, so keep firing it through. Doesn't matter what time you fire it through. Just give me enough time for me to be able to cover before the hour is over. Okay, so once again, welcome to the therapy hour as we explore it today. Questions I've had since yesterday. I've had a few. Thank you for the ones that have sent messages through. Thank you to the ones that felt connected and comfortable enough to be able to entrust me with those questions and entrust that I'll be able to respond and answer those questions. Like I said, if you send me a DM, if you send me a message, if you put a comment in there, I always answer those questions. And if I don't, call me out on it and I'll make sure I do better. Okay? So, let's go for it. Okay. We see a loss of a child's loss of 2 important people in his lives. So yeah, that's a very good question. 14 as well, very formative age and very specific age as well. There's a lot going on there. Adolescence has begun, so I'll be able to explore that. Yeah. All right. So one of the first questions I've got here, which ties in actually with one of the questions I've got here, is about therapy. How do you know when you need therapy? I get asked that a lot. And I get asked that a lot by people that are inquiring, that people that are contacting me, basically deliberating about whether to start therapy or not. And I will touch on that question I've had. I'm going to link it to the question there in regards to what kind of questions to ask a therapist to know you're aligned. The first thing I would say is, how do you know you're ready for therapy? How do you know? I cannot say to you specifically, are ready for therapy. What I would say is, I believe all of us, myself, of course, included, benefit from therapy. We all can benefit from therapy. However, going into therapy when you're not ready could be a waste of your time and a waste of your resource. The most important resource to the world seems to be money. The most important resource to me is time. Time for me is the most valuable resource I have, and it's one in which I value the most. Money, I spend it, it's gone. Whatever I bought could be damaged. I've enjoyed it, it's gone. But time is, what I can do with time is endless. So I value time the most. That's my most valuable asset. I'm going to write that in my will. I'll be like, I want this one to go to this one to go to that, and my time to go. Yeah, you get the drift. So for me, before you go into therapy, you need to reconcile within yourself that you are ready to embark on that journey. And what I mean by that is, you may be going through issues, you may have depression, you may have anxiety, you may be going through trauma, or you may even be suffering from post-trauma. All right? So, but seeking someone in that moment when you are not ready, when you are not willing, when you're not able to go through those stages could be a wasted effort. So what I would ask anyone is to look within themselves. Are they ready to go through that dark, closed door that's been locked for so many years? And for all those ones that may have been with me from the beginning, the analogy would be one in which you connect with. And for the new ones, it's basically that room in your house that you put every junk, everything you don't want to see, everything you don't want to deal with, you put into that room and you lock the door. Those are like our feelings. Those are like our traumatic experiences, things that we do not want to deal with. So when you are ready to open that door and everything flies out and you are prepared to clean house, you're prepared to go through every single item and explore it. Once you feel comfortable enough to do that, that is when you recognize that you are ready to embark on therapy. When do you know you may need therapy? I need therapy. I need therapy. And I'm a psychotherapist, but I need therapy. You need therapy. You can benefit from it. So the answer is, you all need therapy right now. We all do. If we want ourselves to function as much as possible at optimum level, then we need therapy. So that's when you know when you need therapy or not. Someone to bounce ideas off, someone to be able to guide you through. Just imagine your shadow. Your shadow is there with you. It may not be present within your spirit, but it's right there. So someone to hold your hand and guide you through that darkness so you can work things out even better, even quicker, even more in depth. Things that you can't see because it's too close, a therapist may be able to take a step back and look at it and be able to guide you and describe it and explore it with you. So your understanding of what is going on with you is so clearer. So when the therapist goes, you've internalized that therapist, and now you are going through your experience and your challenges with all the skills and knowledge that you've been taught. You've internalized it. Now you are now processing those events similarly to the way your therapist showed you to. So that's how you can use a therapist to be able to explore those challenges. So if you're going through something and you find it overwhelming, or even if it's not too overwhelming, but you just find it difficult to go through, and you're noticing that this is happening with regularity, not once every 5 years, but it's happening every month, every week, every day, it's time for you to seek someone like myself to be able to go, let's explore it. Let's just pull it apart, all right? So another image I'll leave you with is jigsaw puzzle, right? Easy to say. Imagine a jigsaw puzzle, one of those big, massive ones, right? And someone just jumbled it up and someone said, okay, make sense of this. Now with a therapist guiding you, we'll be able to explore, okay, this goes here. Now this goes here. So whereas before, you just seen different jumbled up images, jumbled up feelings. Now with a therapist support and guidance, the picture becomes clearer. You're starting to understand all the jumbled up pieces in your mind. Some of it you've deliberately forgotten, But with a therapist, can guide you and mold that image into one where you can actually see it. It's more coherent, it's clearer, and more palatable. And then it's not as overwhelming. Okay? Now, in answer to the question, the second question, how do you know what kind of question to ask a therapist? Ask a therapist their experience. Ask a therapist their qualifications. Ask a therapist the most important things for you. Not just a generic one that I'm going to say right now. But ask a therapist, what is the most important to you? So for you to ask that question, what's the most important thing for you in regards to seeking a therapist? What would you like from that therapist? What are your red flags? What are your limit, your line? So whatever that is, those are the things you want to look out for in the therapist. Those are the questions you want to ask. You want to ask about their experience. You want to ask certain things that will make you feel comfortable. You want to ask, how do they work? Do they work in an intercultural way? Intercultural way means that your identity, your culture, maybe your race, maybe your gender, maybe your sexuality, maybe your sense of identification, that they work in such a way that they see that, they acknowledge it, they bring that into the room. They don't ignore it and just focus on just the mental health issue. They try to understand your world and any which way it looks. That's how to work interculturally. So for me, when I seek a therapist, I want a therapist to see me, not just as a man, not just as a professional, not as a psychotherapist. I want a therapist to see me, which means my Africanness, my sexuality, my sense of family, my sense of just understanding of myself. If someone is open enough to be able to explore that, I'm comfortable enough to be able to work with that. You may even prefer seeing a male therapist or a female therapist or a therapist that's older, that oozes wisdom. I don't know. But you can determine what you want from that therapist. And don't stop until you find one. And the beauty about this is you can have a session and you can decide after that session, nah, I'm not feeling it. You have the power. So when you see a therapist and the first initial consultation, from that we'll be asking you questions. We call it initial assessment. In America, I think they call it a consultation. We ask questions to be able to explore what kind of issues you may have, to try and understand you, your background, and to try and see which way we will work with you. Whilst we're doing that, it's important for you also to be questioning us, to be looking at us, to be challenging us, and to determine whether we meet all the criteria that you want from someone to entrust your life, your mind, and your spirit with. Okay? I hope I've answered that question as much as possible. Okay? Now, next question and next topic, and this is trauma-based. How do I know, and this is one that resonates a lot with me, and I hope you guys can connect to this question as well. How do I know whether I'm traumatized or I'm not? Because trauma is one of those topics that people just use, that word that people use a lot. How do I know that I'm traumatized or not? And the person goes on to say, I keep having bad feelings, or I feel my feelings change, my whole spirit change when I'm in certain situations. That I'm scared in certain situations and I cannot recollect why I'm feeling this way. That's a very important information to provide to answer this question. So let me just go on to the first part. How do I know I'm experiencing trauma, or I've experienced trauma in the past? Now, some of us, I'm going to use a word, right? And it's called dissociate. Dissociate is a word in which let me just put my pad down. I like to use my hands a lot. It's part of me, and a lot of my African brothers and sisters do the same. So it must be something in the water or something. So dissociate is a word that I link when I'm thinking about trauma. And what happens is part of our brain is trying to protect us. So from whatever you may feel is so hurtful, so damaging, so overwhelming, part of our brain is like, hold on a minute. This event is affecting us. This event is giving us pain. So what do I need to do to protect you? And when we dissociate from an event, it means we block it out. We transfer ourselves into a different realm. We transfer ourselves into a different reality. We ignore it to the point it is not conscious anymore within us. So we dissociate from it. So imagine the opposite of it. We associate, we link with something, we connect with something. Dissociate is a disconnection to that event, to the feelings derived from that event. So we totally ignore it. I'll give you an example. Something terrible has happened to you that is so traumatic that every time you think about it, you feel it, it brings you pain. You either run, you either try and battle it, or you either freeze, right? And in that situation, your brain is like, hold on, my job is to look after this guy. So this information is so painful that every time it thinks about it, it affects his equilibrium. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dissociate, push that away as if it never happened. So we dissociate from it. And we say, no, I'm not connected to that. That's not my reality. But over the years, we can only dissociate for so long. One day we may be triggered. It could be a smell. It could be a song, a sound. It could be a word. It could be an event that you've seen elsewhere and you automatically just immersed within it. And you do not understand why. You do not understand where it's come from because you've been so successful in dissociating with it that it's not in your conscious memory. And what the question asks is, how do I know I've experienced something traumatic? What to me is vital is the next information that she offers, which is when I'm in a certain environment or certain situation, I'm affected, I'm freeze, I'm sad, I'm scared, I'm terrified. What that says to me, without too much information, I've only got that limited information to work with. But what that says to me is, wherever the location is, or whatever is going on in that situation, there's a part of you that's connecting to it. It's not conscious because you've been so successful in dissociating with it, from it, that now it's finding a different way that your brain is all of a sudden remembering. You've been triggered by something. And that trigger automatically evokes these feelings. And the feeling you're feeling will tell you whether that experience was a positive or a negative one. The fact that this person is terrified, scared, suggests that that experience was so terrifying to her that she blocked it out in order for her to live a normal existence, a normal life. So if you can connect to something that you cannot actually remember, but the feeling is our guide. Your feeling is your guide in this situation. Why is it in this particular situation I freeze or I shut up? I can't deal with it. It's something within your DNA, your own personal DNA, your own blueprint that's connected to that event. So I hope that answers that question. But if you've got any more information or any more query regarding trauma, let me know and we'll be able to expand it. We'll be able to flesh it out. All right? So the next question I've got is, confidence and self-worth. And the question is, how do I get confident and how do I believe that I am worthy? They didn't go further than worthy of what, but I'm going to fill in the gaps here. I said maybe worthy of love, worthy of affection, just worthy of another person, opinion of them, valuing them. So let me answer this. Confidence, that's a beautiful question. All right. Confidence is deriving in it's an internal thing. Confidence is an internal thing that is based in some people derive confidence from different location. I'll give you an example. Some people derive confidence as the knowledge that you can do a certain act. What I mean by that is, let's say you're a chef and you've cooked and everybody loves your cooking. After a while, you get confidence in your ability to cook based on the evidence to support that. So you're confident in doing something so much so that you don't even look anymore. You just mix everything together. You don't even measure it. You just sprinkle until your ancestor says, enough, my child. That's enough seasoning, right? That's, some people get that confidence from years of doing something, and they derive their sense of confidence from their track record, their CV, their resume. What is my resume in cooking? Ooh, everybody loves my cooking. I can do it so quickly, so well, and you derive confidence from that. So that is one person's place of seeking where their confidence comes from. Another form of confidence may actually come from a topic in which I haven't really spoken about a lot, but it's something I use a lot in my therapy. So I'll expand on that. So when we're looking at identity, we're looking at attachment theory. Attachment theory is one in which a lot of therapists, especially a lot of therapists that work integratively. Integrative means that they are integrating different models of psychotherapy and creating a unique, bespoke therapy per client. So attachment therapy derives from when you're a child. Remember when you were a child, all of us remember when we're children, right? And when you're hungry, you get fed. When you're thirsty, water or drink is provided to you. When you're crying, you're comforted. Now, if we grew up in that environment, we have what we call a secure attachment. And once we have a secure attachment, whether the person is there or not anymore, we have internalized that. So when you go through this for a long period of time as a child, you internalize that security, that you are certain that whatever I want or whatever I need, my world will provide it. Which means that whatever I seek is attainable. Doesn't mean I don't have to work for it. It just means it's attainable. So I'm secure in the fact that I'm in an environment, in a world that is safe for me. Now, with current events, you can see how attachment could be vital in the way we experience the world. Our attachment could be valuable in the way we feel secure in the world. Okay? So when we're looking at confidence, confidence also comes with that innate, internalized sense of security. I know no matter what, I can attain whatever I seek. So that's another form of confidence. So if you have children, when they are saying, Mom, Dad, answer them. Oh, Mom, I want this or I want that. Respond to them. Not necessarily give it to them. Respond to them. Make them feel secure in that world initially. Once they feel secure in that micro world of the home, that confidence will be so innate that wherever they go, they carry your voice with them. They carry that experience with them. So even if other people are mean to them, they do not internalize it to the point in which it robs them of all their own identity. Because at their core, at the foundation, is secure attachment. And there's been research done for many years where they found children exhibiting secure attachment all the way to adulthood, and they are still showing that secure attachment. Now imagine on the opposite side, children that were exhibiting insecure attachment over the years, even into adulthood, that is still within them. All right? So it's very vital for us to be able to reassure, give comfort, nurture, support children. Now, before you ask, what if I didn't grow up in such an environment? So that means I'm messed up for life? No. First of all, we don't say messed up. All right? Secondly, attachment can be changed. You can learn attachment from certain people, like a therapist. Imagine growing up and you're thinking, my mom is not there, my dad is not there, nobody's there for me. But you go to see a therapist at, let's say, in your 20s or your teens, whatever it may be. And every week, that therapist is there, showing you love, And what I mean by love, I mean love as in its most natural and most beautiful form, which is another person is there present for you, caring about what you are bringing and trying to support you and try to connect with you. That is love for me. So once you see a therapist week in, week out, exhibiting that, giving you that, after a while you internalize that attachment. You internalize that love, and it will start rubbing away the negative experiences you've had. That you now, when you're thinking about, am I worthy? Am I worthy? You start connecting to the therapist. All right? So I hope I answered that question. Some confidence is based on your track record in doing something. Oh, I'm not a confident driver. You drive for a while and you're thinking, oh, hold on a minute, I'm driving well. So after a while, you start connecting to your track record, your resume of doing something, and you have that confidence within that. But a deeper confidence is looking into attachment theory. Attachment theory is looking at ways in which you can exhibit secure attachment, or you can foster secure attachment. Okay, so let me see. All right, let's go to the next question. I hope that was clear. I hope I answered that and it was clear enough for people to understand. If it's not, challenge me on it and I'll expand. All right, so next question. I'm going to touch on the question that I was asked at the beginning, which is imposter syndrome. And that connects to the last topic we were just talking about, which is confidence and whether you're worthy or not. So imposter syndrome is a word bandied about a lot, and people I think they understand it to the surface level. So I'll expand on that. Imposter syndrome, and for people that do not understand what that means, it means that you're doing something for a while or you're doing something for a long time, but you do not feel that you belong, you deserve it, you're worthy of it. You feel you are basically blagging it. And blagging it is another way of saying just faking it, right? So for people in America, you may not understand the term blagging, but for people in the UK, blagging is part of our DNA, is in a dictionary. Blagging is you just try and fake your way, fake it till you make it, right? So imposter syndrome comes into that field of, I am not worthy of this. So sooner or later, I'm going to be found out. So I'm going to continue pretending. So imagine you pretending. Imagine you, the example we use when I was training was, when we're looking at imposter syndrome, is this. Imagine you in a surgery and someone said, okay, doctor, okay, can you please do brain surgery on this patient? We're going to lose him. And in that situation, you're like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm going to kill this person. Sooner or later, somebody's going to find out. One day, someone is going to ask me to actually perform surgery on someone. How the hell am I going to do that? So that, if you just imagine that example, although it's a crazy example, but it touches on someone's feeling that they're not capable, they're inadequate, they haven't got the experience to do it. Someone feeling that, I'm going to get found out soon enough. I'm looking over my shoulder. Someone is going to find out that I lied on my resume, my CV. Someone is going to find out that I haven't got those experiences. They're going to call the university that I said I got my degree from, and they're going to find out that I haven't got this experience. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So that is imposter syndrome. And imagine the anxiety it brings when you feel that you're going to be caught. Imagine the anxiety it brings when you feel that, oh my gosh, somebody's going to find out I am not capable of all the things I said I was going to be able to do. So that is looking at imposter syndrome. Understanding it, where does it come from? And from time to time, we could have imposter syndrome even though we've once exhibited confidence. You know when you say you lose your confidence? And confidence is one of those vital tools that we have in our arsenal. But when we lose it, we are discombobulated. I love that word, by the way. It just sounds so crazy. Discombobulated. It basically means we lose all our balance, all our bearings and everything else. We're unsteady, right? Once we lose our confidence, once we lose that sense of being, that assurance within ourselves. So once you lose that, it's very difficult for you to get it back. So how do we get it back? We get it back by one step at a time. So the first thing I want you to do is challenge that thought. Whatever it is you may be experiencing imposter syndrome in, it could be, I'm not a good mother. What if people find out I'm a rubbish mother? What if people find out I'm a rubbish lover? What if people find out I do not know half the thing they think I do? Right? Even as a therapist, we've all gone through, I've got colleagues that we speak, we do peer supervision, which is we talk to each other and discuss how we're dealing with certain emotions, how we're dealing with clients. And even within that, there's a sense of, I don't know what the hell I'm doing with this client. And we guide and we support each other. And one of the most important and useful tools we use is we reassure each other because we bring receipts. So what I want all of you that may be experiencing imposter syndrome to do is challenge. And how do you challenge that imposter syndrome? Bring your receipts. And what I mean by that is, I'm a bad mother. Bring your receipts. This is the child you've kept alive. That to me is a major receipt. That's a major accomplishment that you've kept this child alive. You fed this child. This child is clothed. This child is washed this month. You know, that is a success story. So look at your receipts. You not knowing how to deal with absolutely everything is not an indictment of your failure. You not knowing how to deal with everything is an indictment of your success. Because as soon as you acknowledge what you don't know, the next step is going to seek and acquire that knowledge. But if you don't know something, you're going to be continuing down that path of just destruction. So for me, the first thing to deal with imposter syndrome is to challenge it. The next thing for you to do, show your receipts to challenge it. Well, I'm not good at this job. You got the job in the first place. You haven't been sacked yet. Your performance is one that hasn't been brought up by your manager to say you're doing a terrible job. This is coming from your own internal negative thoughts that you haven't challenged. So when you haven't challenged it, it's growing stronger and stronger and stronger. It's like a bully. If you don't challenge a bully, that bully is going to be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to come back tomorrow and bully this person because I know I'm going to get success from it. But once you challenge that, it may be difficult. You may get a couple of punches, but the bully becomes weaker because you've challenged it. And now that bully doesn't see you as that weakling. That bully now sees you as a formidable opposition. So be that formidable opposition to that internal negative thought. Challenge it and provide your receipts. Okay? So I hope I answered that question well. If I haven't, the person that asked it, please let me know now and I'll expand on it. The next one we're looking at is, just give me a second. The next thing we're looking at right now, as we've got 15 minutes to go, is reconciling your not so perfect self. Good question. Now, the word perfect. I'm trying to think. Thank you. I'm glad you found the explanation clear. The word perfect. I tell you what animal that comes to mind when I think. So let's play word association, right? A lot of psychologists play this. When I say this word, what do you think? So for me, when I hear the word perfect, you know what I think? I think unicorn, right? Now, some of you are thinking right now, and I think a lot of you have got to where I'm going with it. So when I think of the word perfect, I think of the animal unicorn. So anytime someone says perfect to me, I think mythical creature. A creature that doesn't exist, but exists only in our imagination, in literature, in fantasy. So why am I going to spend a lot of my time, my energy, in this thing that doesn't exist? We all know about it, like perfection, right? We all know about unicorns. Yes, well, right there. We all know about that. But why am I aiming for something that's not real? And that's a brilliant analogy to answer that question. How can you reconcile your not so perfect self? the first thing I would suggest would be acknowledge your not so perfect self. Acknowledge my not so perfect self. And acknowledge everyone's in here's not so perfect self. So now that we have acknowledged that we're not perfect, let's acknowledge what we actually are, what we're aiming for. What does the perfect self mean to you? It may mean someone that is able to provide for the family. If that's your definition of perfection, work towards that. It may mean being a good mother. And what does being a good mother actually mean? Keeping your children alive? Bonus. Supporting them? Good. Nurturing them? Letting them know they're loved by spending time with them? Let that be your goal rather than the perfect self. So whatever it is, because in that question, I've got an impression that you've got in your mind your own sense of perfection. That word perfect is actually a substitute word for something very specific to you. So paint that imagery. What does perfection in that question mean to you? It means being what? Looking a certain way, sounding a certain way, being seen by others a certain way. Whatever it may mean to you, let's move the perfection out of the way and try and understand what we mean by it. So for me, when I'm aiming to be trying reconciling my not so perfect self, I move away from the perfect part of it. I'm just trying to say, okay, where am I right now? And where am I aiming to be? And in between that, now that's where the beauty is. Because if you say you want to be a doctor, right? I want to be a doctor. Currently, I'm not a doctor. But in between that, that's where the beauty and the magic is. Because that's when you determine, what do I need to do to be where I want to be? Not the fantasies and everything. The fantasy is important because it's part of believing something is real. You cannot imagine a unicorn. You cannot say there's a unicorn without actually picturing it and imagining it. So whatever your sense and your aim is, I want to be a doctor. It starts where? It starts with me making inquiries. It starts with me enrolling in a certain course. It starts with me reading and studying and planning. And imagine a long staircase. It starts with me taking that first step. So wherever your goal is, it starts there. Okay? So wherever your sense of self is, where you want to reconcile to a perfect one doesn't exist. But what does exist is recognizing where you are right now and where you want to be. And how do I get there? One step at a time. Then the next step. Then the next step. And before you know it, it's like, hold on a minute, look back and you see, I've traveled this far, then you'll get there. I hope I've answered that question as well. Okay, if I haven't, challenge me. I enjoy being challenged because it lets me get better and gets me to understand you even better. Whew. Next question. Let me just tick this off. Remember last week I said I love ticking off goals, so I'm a beautiful nerd. Love it. So I've answered that question. I've answered imposter syndrome, reconciling also perfect self. 2 more questions to go that was sent in today. Therapist. Oh, let me just see here. Oh, wow. Oh, that's brilliant. Everybody say congratulations, please, to the Tuesday child. Next year, going to be a doctor. And you all know what we need more in this world than anything are health professionals. So thank you for studying and working your butt off. Not literally. I hope that you still got some butt left. But thank you for working so hard and being hopefully next year we'll all be there celebrating you. Wherever it is, when you do become one, please let us know. Send me a message and send me a picture. And what I'll do is I'll put it on my feed, not my stories, on my feed, and I'll be like, we're gonna celebrate you. So the community is gonna celebrate you. So well done for even taking that first step. All right, that to me is the most important one. So don't stop now. All right. If anything, you know the whole world loves a doctor now. So if anything, you got there early. All right. So well done, well done, well done, well done. Look at that. Good. Thank you guys for bless. Yes, bless the Tuesday's child. All right. Just for that, I'm gonna follow you, Tuesday's child. I'm gonna keep an eye out on your successes. All right, so I can announce it. So the next question: therapist crying. Whew. Now, I can answer this one or two ways. Always, I endeavor to answer it how I see it, how I feel it, what my experience has shown me. The question is, this person is either therapist, three separate therapists, crying as she or he has expressed a traumatic event, a traumatic experience. And is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? How did you feel? Is the most important thing, I would say. How did you feel when the therapists were crying? That for me is the most important thing. What I think actually doesn't matter. What matters is how did you feel when your therapists were crying? So if you can answer that for me, it will be quite important for me to be able to explore that a little bit further. How did you feel seeing the person you were sitting across? How did you feel when they were crying? And you were there talking about something so personal, something so hurtful and painful, and you saw them crying. How did that make you feel? So feel free to let me know how that felt, so that way I can just expand and explore that a little bit further with you. Okay? So how did it make you feel seeing the therapist, three separate therapists, crying? That within itself would determine whether it was a good thing or a bad thing, or whether it was a positive thing or a negative thing. How did it make you feel? Okay? So as I'm waiting for you to send that through, what I will do is I will just explore about the concept of crying. And the concept of crying last week, I touched on depression. And one of the things I forgot to say, because the time just got taken away from us, right? One of the most valuable resources. And one of the things I wanted to say last week was crying is actually a brilliant strategy of dealing with your depression. Crying is a way of cleansing and a way of you shedding away the pain, shedding away the feelings. So crying is a very important strategy to use in dealing with your mental health. Okay? So in regards to the question, how did it feel when your therapists were crying? Initially, the acknowledgement was relief to the need to collect myself very quickly to be there for them moments. Okay. Just as I thought, the reason why I wanted you to say, I didn't want to generalize, I didn't want to bring my opinion into your experience. In some cases, and in my therapy room, I've got tissues, Kleenex. So just one of those ones, can you imagine it? You know, one of those ones you take out. Now, when my clients are exhibiting very emotional things, when my clients are going through very traumatic events within the session and they're crying, initially, I'll offer tissue, right? It's a way of showing empathy. It's a way of showing someone that, oh, you're crying, here's a tissue. So, but over the years, in my experience, I leave now the tissue right in the middle that is reachable by the client. But I did before, but I don't now offer my client tissues for exactly the same reason that Aish Ray has put. The reason why I do not offer my clients tissues is because when you give someone tissue, what are you saying? Are you saying, here's a tissue to wipe away your tears? And what comes after that is, stop crying, enough crying now, don't cry. Now, if you ever said to someone, don't cry, what you may be saying to them is, shut up. I've had enough of your tears. It's enough now. Okay, stop it. I cannot deal with your pain. So I'm going to focus on myself and say, you stop crying so I can feel better. So that's why I stopped giving my clients tissues. But I put it in a place where it's reachable for every client to take a tissue when they choose that they want one, that they require one. Now, if a therapist is crying, what happens is we feel, I don't know about you, but for me, if someone I'm telling someone something to is crying, I want to console them. Now the attention is taken away from me and it's now on them. So I've been in situations where I've heard very traumatic things, but I have to remind myself, who am I here for? I am the professional that's here for my client. And what I do is I try to hold that and just focus on my client and what my client is going through. How can I support my client better? How can I be present for this person exhibiting their pain? I can show emotion, and I believe therapy should show emotion to connect with a client. I definitely value that. If you're going through so much pain, sometimes it's difficult for us to hear this without feeling so connected to it, so empathic, and we do not show emotion. Of course, we're humans, we want to show emotions, and also showing emotions makes you feel that I am connected to what you're going through. However, I draw the line when my client starts feeling sorry for me, my client stops crying so they can attend to my needs. The most important person in the room is not the therapist. It's not always the client either. The most important person is the relationship. And the focus is on the client and what they're bringing in, how we as therapists can support and help them. Okay? So you may want to describe that experience to your next therapist and explain how that made you feel, so that therapist will become aware, very conscious and aware of being present for you and dealing with your issues, so you do not feel compelled to stop crying, so you can soothe them. Okay? I hope that was helpful, and I hope that was that answered the question clearly. But in all my years, I've never cried with a client. I've definitely felt pain and sorrow and sadness with the client. So if you can connect with a client that way, it's vital and it's important. Okay? So let's go. Next question and last question for the day. 14-year-old child, how do you deal with someone that's lost so much? Thank you, Aisha. How do we deal with someone, a 14-year-old that's lost two most important people in his life or her life, and one as recent as this year? That child in that situation needs support, love, guidance, nurturing. That child needs to know that he or she is not alone. That child needs to understand that although the world is rocky right now, and the world may feel empty because your two biggest cheerleaders, your teachers, your guides, your gods are no longer with you. Those 14 years, you've internalized that experience. You've internalized that love. You've internalized that guidance. You may feel alone right now, but that child needs other people around them to lift them up and reassure them that everything you've experienced, all the love, the guidance, the support, the value, hasn't gone. You've swallowed it. It's growing within you. The seed is already there. It's growing within you. And it's very important for that child to find an outlet to express what that child may not even know that they're feeling. And that child, I would suggest, needs therapy, especially so recent as this year, because the world feels like such an unsafe place right now for all of us, adults. So imagine what it feels like for a child that's physically lost loved ones. So if you can be there for that child, if you can support that child into therapy, so that child can have someone holding he or she's hand as they explore what life is going to be now henceforth, is vital. It's important. They may scream, they may shout, but please be there for that child. All right. We're coming to the end of our session now, so I want to say my big thank you to everyone that's joined me. I want to say thank you to everyone that's asked questions. I've covered all the questions I've listed down. I will let you know when the next therapy hour is going to be. So until the next time, thank you. Look after yourself and all love. Okay? Take care.